Hey friends, thanks so much for expressing interest in this trauma-informed yoga bundle. The following 6 videos are going to take you on a journey of self-healing, support, regardless of any traumatic experiences you may have had or haven't had. This program is suitable for all, those of us that are just going through life with little hiccups here and there, and those that have gone through significant trauma. This is something that I've been wanting to share, honestly, for 15 plus years. I had a yoga practice sporadically. I went to yoga to supplement some other sports that I was playing or other activities, but it wasn't until I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer that I truly leaned in and found the benefit of yoga in supporting us both physically and mentally. And so trauma in and of itself is an umbrella term, and it's not what many people think it is. It's not the experience. Trauma is the lasting emotional response to a distressing or perhaps frightening event that it's hard to cope with, it's difficult to process. So trauma is the emotional response, not necessarily the situation in and of itself. When we think of trauma, we think of the action that is causing these feelings. But when we also think of two people, let's throw out a car accident. Many people have been in a car accident. For some people, you get into a car accident and you think, that stings, I gotta go through the insurance, but I'm good. And after the process of fixing your car is over, you might not think twice about it. Another person could have been in the exact same car accident, but have taken it differently. It could be emotionally triggering for them to go on that same road where they had the accident. They may not want to drive for a while. They may feel anxious if somebody is tailgating them or whatever the situation is. And so the situation is the same, both a car accident, but your response to it can vary greatly. And this is important to note as we're dealing with other people, because humankind, we are very social creatures. We are meant to be part of a community, but we all process things differently. We can have 50 people in the same situation and we can have 50 different emotional responses. So this is what makes trauma so tricky to hone in on and to support others as well as yourself, because you may feel differently than somebody that has gone through the same situation. So it's always nice to enter into this space with kindness, compassion, and just understanding that we all feel things in our own way. We all hold things differently, and there's no right or wrong way to handle a traumatic event. There are 3 types of trauma. There's acute trauma, which is a singular incident, perhaps the car accident. There's chronic trauma, which is repetitive over time. This is often what we see in domestic violence situation or other abuse. The last form of trauma is complex trauma, and this is interpersonal in nature. It's exposure to varied and multiple experiences. My complex trauma is being very close to the bombing of the Boston Marathon in 2013. It was exposure to a scary situation, and it was interpersonal in nature, so many of us were impacted. So if we think of the 3 levels of trauma, many of us have had all 3. Some may have just had 1 or 2. It doesn't matter. Trauma is trauma, and how we feel is valid. So as we start this journey, a few reminders. One is that all emotions matter. They're all valid. There is no wrong or bad emotions. There are simply pleasant emotions that we hope to settle in, and there can be unpleasant emotions that we are still going to feel, but this program is going to help you navigate those perhaps negative emotions, get you through it, and realize that emotions are just data. They're feeding us information and what we need more of or less of in our lives. So if we can break down this workshop, this mini series, this bundle, into just acknowledging that all emotions matter and that it's feedback to support us and to tell us what we might be going through. And so before we dive into the yoga portion, I want to share a couple of things that are helpful in trauma-informed yoga or just trauma-informed life. First of all, You don't have to have any experience in yoga to benefit from this program. The postures that we go through in yoga are going to be restorative in nature, meaning they're not really physically demanding. It's more putting yourself into shapes that are supported and using props to get the benefit. So suitable for all. I also give modifications if you have any physical restrictions. You can reach out to me too if there's anything in particular you want to share. But some tips and tricks, things that can help us as we navigate big emotions, whatever they may be. First is deep belly breathing. We'll break this down in one of our classes, but it's basically just filling up your belly on an inhale and letting it go on the exhale. Another tip when we're focusing on breath work, filling up the belly, of course, but if you can make your exhale last longer than your inhale, it will automatically activate your parasympathetic system, which is your rest and digest. This is the ability to downshift in life, moving away from sympathetic fight, flight, freeze, moving, going, doing, pushing through the emotions without dealing with them. A double length exhale or an exhale that's simply longer than the inhale will help you calm down, drop that heart rate, and process. Repeating mantras are also helpful. Each of the classes that we will be in together, I will offer a mantra as an intention. And so, for example, I am safe in this moment, a short phrase, something that you can repeat to yourself as you're starting to feel emotions bubble up that maybe are unpleasant. I am safe in this moment. I am safe in this moment. Just repeating it to yourself until you truly feel that you're safe in this moment. Some other things that are helpful if you are feeling big emotions, cutting back on caffeine doesn't mean taking it out of your life, but perhaps replacing 1 cup of coffee or caffeinated beverage with an herbal tea or warm lemon water or something that has 0 to no caffeine. Tapping is something that will be helpful for us. We are going to break that down in 2 of the videos, different ways of tapping to help us process emotions. And then Epsom salt baths are really nice too. Helps pull out toxins physically, very calming, grounding for us. Another tip is somatic release. We will break that down in at least one of the videos too, just moving the body in a certain way to break out stagnant energy. A couple other tips and tricks. If you notice big emotions lingering, festering, especially around worry and anxiety, if you have those emotions a lot, I invite you to perhaps for a week or so eat a little bit cleaner, less processed food, less fried food, less sugary drinks and foods and sweets. Try to eat a little cleaner and you might feel that you get past that brain fog. Another thing that is really helpful is being out in nature and grounding. Grounding is the process of walking around barefoot in the grass, in the soil, even on the beach or in the ocean. It's connecting your feet to the earth. We get an ion charge that will help support us in calming, grounding, almost like you're wearing a weighted blanket, which is another tip that can be helpful, is putting a little weight on your belly, a weighted blanket. A few other things that we'll be breaking down in this mini series is journaling. From sessions 2 through 5, I will give you specific prompts throughout class to ponder, and I will also share those written so that you can jot down your answers, keep it close to you, go back and read it often. But journaling, getting your thoughts out on paper, is a beautiful practice to help support us through this traumatic or trauma release. Sound healing is also something that is really beneficial. And so when we break down our response to trauma, we'll often focus on the chakras. And so each chakra, from your root to the crown of your head, has a different vibrational frequency. It also has a different color associated with it, body parts associated with it, and different frequencies. And so when we think of sound, for those of you that are familiar with the chakras, we'll be breaking them down as well throughout the series. But if you're interested in sound healing, you can hop on Spotify. I have a couple playlists that are connected to chakra support. You can also just search. So different megahertz, 396 is the connection to your root chakra. So that is your safety, your stability. It's going to help you overcome fear and guilt. Look for music that is tuned to 396 megahertz. 417, on the other hand, moves us up to the sacral area, and this is where we resolve some of our trauma. This is where a lot of trauma lives, between the root and the sacral area. It gets buried deep within the belly. It stays with us. We don't just wake up in, even though we're feeling good, it doesn't mean that those emotions are gone. It just means that they're suppressed within you physically. So 417 is really helpful for traumatic release. 528 brings us to the solar plexus, your upper belly. This is transformative. So if you're looking to shake things up and just kind of get out of your head a little bit, look for 528 megahertz sound. Moving upwards towards the heart, the center of your being, the middle chakra, 639 megahertz. This color is associated with green. It's our connection to others, love, healing relationships. So if you're feeling like you need to heal relationships and you're having some difficulty navigating that, hop on Spotify or Apple Music, whatever you do, 639 megahertz. Going up to your throat, 741 megahertz. This is also associated with the color blue, and it's our truth-seeking area. It's your ability to speak your truth and to communicate effortlessly, having those difficult conversations. Very important for trauma healing, having those difficult conversations, knowing that you're doing it to support the relationship. Moving upwards to the first eye center, some people call this the third eye, but when you think of chakra healing, you are more intuitive and you take things in first with the first eye. These are secondary. So first eye, or lovingly called third eye for those that refer to it that way, that will be 852 megahertz, and this connects us to our intuition, knowing without being told. Finally, we have the crown chakra, which is top of your head, halo and beyond. Megahertz of 963 and beyond connects us to the divine. So any sound healing, just playing it as you're meditating or play it as you're driving in the car, really anytime, you can. I have actually a playlist that goes from the root to the crown chakra. You can make a playlist or find one easily. There's so many out there that will get you from the root to the crown. Typically, that's how we work. We go from the lower vibrational frequencies upwards to kind of shake things up. Finally, I recommend that we all take some time to slow down, to be with ourselves. A huge trend we see with people dealing with trauma, I am guilty of this as well, is over planning and packing your schedule. And if you think about it, it's brilliant. It's your mind's way of protecting your body and suppressed emotions. If you keep yourself so busy going from A to B to C, you don't give yourself time to be with yourself, to process things. You're just so busy going on that you don't think of those traumatic feelings. And by the time you end your day, you're so tired that you don't process it, which short term can be helpful and is a skill set in and of itself. But over time, the more we do this, the more we suppress these emotions. They don't go away. They will never leave you physically. You'll start to notice maybe ailments in certain body parts that are connected to the emotion or the traumatic event. You might start to notice that over time you're getting more irritable, frustrated, your body's getting tight, or this is one that we see often, a little tiny hiccup can set somebody off. And the response to that little tiny hiccup is grossly over exaggerated for the situation, but it's the culmination of all the other feelings and emotions. We've all been around people where something small seems to set them off and we're like, wait, what happened? That was so small, so minor. It's not that one situation, it's everything leading up to it. The more you can slow down, the more you can meditate, the more you can journal, the more you can ground, tap, take Epsom salt baths, just be with yourself, feel the feelings. It's gonna suck sometimes. It's going to be hard. Feel your feelings, sit with them, process them, work through them so they can lovingly leave and you can replace them with more pleasant, positive emotions. So I hope that makes sense for everyone. We're also going to be focusing on certain specific emotions that are traditionally connected to trauma within the body, things that we hold on to. And so as we're working, in India, they call this prana. In Chinese culture, they call it ki or chi. And in Japanese, we call it reiki. It's universal life force energy. It's within all of us. We are all interconnected humans. As much as we might say, oh, we're different from each other, we are so similar. So there are 7 emotions that kind of cycle through traumatic events. We have joy, we have fear, we have anger, we have grief, we have anxiety, contemplation, and fright. From those 7 emotions, we then break it down even further and connect certain emotions that are repetitive in traumatic response and connect to body parts. You see this a lot in traditional Chinese medicine, TCM. In acupuncture, for instance, I'll give a personal example. I'll throw myself out there because one part of trauma is talking about it. Don't be afraid to discuss it. Don't shy away from it. We all have it. I hold on to a lot of anger. It is something that is generational, that isn't just with me, parents, it's from generations before. I can fly off the handle sometimes. That's my thing. When I get acupuncture, I don't even tell the acupuncturist what's going on. The second they stick the needle into the corresponding meridian for the liver, I can feel a tingling sensation running up and down my body. So it holds within your body. Before I even knew that I was holding on to anger, when I would get acupuncture a decade and a half ago, they would always say, your liver is speaking to us. And I never understood it until I deep dove this. And I was like, oh yeah, I hold on to anger. That's why. So I share this with you, not to make fun of myself or to just throw myself out there, but just to bring life to it, put words to it. If you don't talk about these things, they take on such a big role in your life. But the second you verbalize it, you express it, it's like, well, whatever, we're all working through things. And so over the next couple of weeks, we are going to focus on certain emotions and certain body parts. We're going to have a class on anger, which is connected to the liver. We're going to have a class on worry, which is connected to the spleen. And worry can also connect to overthinking. We're going to focus on fear associated with the kidney, grief, which lives in the lungs, and we are going to have a class on joy, which focuses in on the heart. And so throughout our time, most of our practice will be yin in nature, meaning it is more of that moon style practice. We are slower, it's more feminine, it's gentle. It's not that yang vinyasa move, creating heat, fire, masculine energy. We are dropping down, slowing down to feel our feelings. Also, throughout our time together, we are going to notice the elements. And so when we focus, let's say we're starting on anger, right? Anger connected to the liver and the gallbladder is associated with the element of wood. Who would have thought? Joy or overjoy, kind of manic in nature, is connected to our heart and small intestine, and its elemental connection is fire. Worry lives in the stomach and the spleen. That's connected to the earth, grounding. Fear lives in our kidney and our bladder. That's connected to the water element. And lastly, sadness is connected to our lungs, large intestine, and that's the element of metal. So throughout our time together, we are going to focus on a whole lot of things. Each class, we will start with a breathing technique, a different breathing technique. We're going to have an intention or mantra that you can repeat to yourself, not only in class, but I do recommend doing these classes 1 per week and coming back to the class multiple times in that week so that you're breaking down each emotion and working through it, taking your time. If there's an emotion that you know is one that lives within you stronger than others, come back to it more than a week. This bundle will be yours to keep forever. So use it as a tool, use it as an old favorite that you go back to often. So with that, we will be focusing also on yin poses that will physically help us drop in, to settle, to soften. And these classes are organized in a sequence that will support you. So it's very intentional. The posture is very intentional with the sides that we start on, as well as the order of the postures. And then throughout class, we will also have some journal prompts that will be shared with you in writing so that you can journal after class, put all your thoughts on paper, come back to it often, reread it, see how you're feeling a couple days after journaling. If you continue to practice the physical movements, the breath work, the intention, you might notice after a couple of days you soften or you shift your perspective. Finally, in each of the classes, we're going to do something I call it like a little ditty. One of the classes will be, or two of the classes will be doing tapping, we'll be doing a somatic release in another. And so they have a little special component to support the associated emotion. I hope that you have a wonderful journey in this practice. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me, email, on social media, a text message. I'm happy to guide you through this. And if anything comes up or you have any major breakthroughs, you want to talk it out, I'm here for you. I would love to process it with you. Thank you all so much, and I cannot wait for you to dive into this program.